If you remember the poker craze at the turn of the century, you remember shuffle up and deal. Well, shuffle up and deal, maybe a new offensive line for the Houston Texans. They've got one regular season game and then the playoffs are here. They got to figure out exactly what that offensive line combination is going to look like. Let's talk about it. Powered by my friends at BetUS. Let's see what they can do with some guys getting healthy. The Texans currently have been playing Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, Titus Howard at left guard, Jared Patterson at center, Kendrick Green at right guard, and the rookie tackle Blake Fisher at right tackle. And this offensive line crew that started to come together in the middle of the Chiefs game after Shaq Mason got hurt, it's been okay to bad. Obviously, the Baltimore game was horrific for everybody involved, but even in the Kansas City game, there were some issues with that offensive line. Now, it looked okay for a moment or two in Kansas City, but this is not the type of line where you feel like you have to keep things lined up. You have to keep things like this and just keep that right guard spot warm until Shaq Mason can jump back in there. There's no guarantee that Shaq Mason is going to be ready to get back in there for the Texans anytime soon. So this offensive line configuration that they've got, if they want to roll it out there for continuity purposes, I certainly would understand that. But they have the ability and they have the option to shuffle some things around when it comes to this offensive line. There's two configurations that they could make with the offensive line that they have and the players that they have healthy. One I'm pretty much in favor of, and the other one, it's not the worst idea, but I don't love it ultimately. Let's start with the one that I'm pretty much in favor of. So I don't want to see Kendrick Green start at right guard anymore. The inconsistency there, and when it's bad, it's really bad from Kendrick Green. That sort of explains why we hadn't seen Kendrick Green up to this point. So I'd like to see somebody else there at right guard, but I don't want to shuffle the other four guys too terribly much. So if Drew Scruggs is going to be healthy enough to go, I know he's played center for this team this year. He's been okay. I know he played left guard for this team this year, and he was okay. If he's healthy enough to go, hopefully he knows enough that he can play right guard for this team. Give him the option to play right guard now that he's healthy. They have invested in Scruggs. He's a former second-round pick. Nick Caserio really likes him at center. He talked about it during the bye week, how much they thought of Scruggs as a center and how tough it was for him to go to left guard and how they thought he had done a pretty decent job. I know it's not left guard, but plopping him over there at right guard, I trust him more than I trust Kendrick Green for the offensive line configuration. And you're not moving a whole bunch of pieces around. Fisher stays, Tunsil stays, Howard stays, J-Pat stays. So just one guy that you're relying on to be better than the previous guy, which was Kendrick Green, and it was quite the roller coaster with Kendrick Green there. So this configuration would be Tunsil, Howard, Patterson, Scruggs, and Blake Fisher. So that's the low amount of movement configuration. Don't change a bunch configuration from the offensive line. I'll tell you about the change a lot configuration here in a moment. Right after we talk about my friends at BetUS. BetUS, YouTube 150 is the code. We talked about it earlier in this week, the Texans 4.5-point dogs to the Titans. Well, now it's a pick 'em. Okay, the Texans going to play some starters in this one and probably should play the offensive line. When you get signed up at BetUS, YouTube 150 is the code. You get a 150% bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit. We got in early this week on Texans plus 4.5. I feel pretty good about that. But let's look at some of the other Week 18 odds and the games that drastically affect the Texans. A loss by the Ravens would put them in consideration to play the Texans again in the wild card round. Don't want to see that, and the line makers don't believe that is going to happen. 17-point favorites, the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals and the Steelers, that's an important one. Steelers home doggies in this one. Look, I know Cincinnati's rolling right now, but Pittsburgh home doggies, they got a little bit more juice than that. I actually kind of like the Steelers in this one. And the Texans, if they want to play the Steelers, they need Pittsburgh to get a victory in this one. I actually like the Steelers enough. Got to put a little sprinkle on this one. $25 on the Steelers, and that would get Pittsburgh. And unfortunately, they're terrible towel-waving fans to Houston for the playoff game in the first round. But that's the least impressive quarterback that you could play of the potential opponents. Russell Wilson versus this Texans defense, Houston's got a chance. Now that Texans offense versus the Steelers defense, that would be tough. And figuring out who's going to block TJ Watt, well, let's talk about that final offensive line configuration. This is the change a lot offensive line. And it's the line that they had on the field before Juice Scruggs got hurt, the line they had on the field against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Titus Howard would go from left guard back to his spot at right tackle. You would then play Kendrick Green at right guard, filling in for Shaq Mason. Patterson stays at center. Laramie Tunsil stays at left tackle. And Juice Scruggs is back in the lineup at left guard. Now, this is, again, the change-a-lot scenario. Left guard, Titus Howard goes back to right tackle. Blake Fisher goes to the bench. Kendrick Green stays in there at right guard. Scruggs back in there at left guard. I don't love this configuration. I'll go with the change a little bit, not the change a lot. Just put Scruggs in for Kendrick Green. Don't do a whole bunch of this changing. I feel like you want to put the best 5 guys out there, regardless of where the best 5 guys are. The best 5 guys are Tunsil, Howard, Patterson, Scruggs, and Fisher. Okay? Putting Kendrick Green in there and keeping Fisher out of the equation, that does, to me, does not do the Texans good. It doesn't help them pass block better. It doesn't help them run block better. It's not the better offensive line configuration. So, again, this is the move a lot one. They have this option if they feel like Scruggs can't play right guard, so they put him at left guard, and they're more comfortable with Howard at right tackle versus Fisher. But I wouldn't move these guys around. I'd go with the move a little situation and just take Kendrick Green out of the lineup, put Juice Scruggs in there, call it a day. Let that offensive line practice together this week, play against the Tennessee Titans for a good amount of the game, regardless of who the quarterback is, regardless of if Nico Collins, Joe Mixon are playing. And then once they've played a little bit, if you feel comfortable with it, you put it into practice in the playoffs against, like we just bet on, hopefully the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if not, the Los Angeles Chargers, and in a nightmare scenario, the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, as well. You put that in practice in the playoffs, or if Shaq Mason is ready, they would probably just insert Shaq Mason back there at right guard, and you would keep the Tunsil, Titus Howard, Jared Patterson, and Fisher alignment with just Mason in the place of Kendrick Green. So the swap out of Kendrick Green is what we look for here with Scruggs healthy in this match against the Tennessee Titans. And let's see what that line can do. Maybe that's the secret combination to blocking and run blocking for the Houston Texans. Wouldn't it be nice if they figured it out in Week 18 and took it into the playoffs? Wouldn't it be nice? Don't hold your breath, but wouldn't it be nice? Yeah, it'd be pretty nice. Let me know what you think in the comments section. What would you do? You want Juice Scruggs back in there? You want to keep Kendrick Green in there? Do you want Blake Fisher on the bench and Titus Howard back there at right tackle? Let me know in the comment section down below. And we're down there. Thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to SNL, where myself and Landry Locker from the Locker Room also do a tremendous amount of work, and appreciate you as always watching the video, checking out my friends at BetUS with that code YouTube150. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I can't wait until we talk Texans again soon.